Have you ever felt like you're essential to everyone, but invisible to yourself? Like you're the quiet pillar holding up the lives of others, strong, supportive, endlessly present, but somewhere along the way, you disappeared from your own life. Maybe it's not just exhaustion you feel, but a quiet ache that lives beneath your skin. Not the tiredness that sleep can fix, but a weariness of the soul. The kind that builds when you've spent too many years saying yes when you meant no, offering your time, your energy, your presence, while quietly abandoning your own needs. It often starts early, doesn't it? You were the child who learned to stay quiet so others wouldn't be upset. The one who smiled even when things hurt. The one who believed love had to be earned by being useful, agreeable, selfless. And so, you became someone who gives. You give your time. You give your energy. You give your care, your softness, your presence. And what do you keep? The silence, the ache, the whispered question at night. When will someone choose me the way I choose them? This invisible pain, it doesn't scream. It lives in the quiet sacrifices no one sees. It lives in the small betrayals of self that go unnoticed, until the day your soul begins to crumble under the weight of your own absence. And even then, the world may still applaud you. You're the dependable one, the kind one, the one who's always there. But what they call kindness might be your disguise, a mask called selflessness, worn by someone who was never taught that they mattered too. In Jungian terms, this is the cost of an overdeveloped persona, the social mask we wear to be accepted, to be loved. But behind that mask is someone waiting, someone tired of being last. And maybe, just maybe, you're beginning to hear that voice inside you, the one that whispers late at night. There must be more than this. That voice is not weakness. It's your truth trying to find its way back. Where does this pattern begin, this quiet habit of leaving yourself behind? Long before we become adults who overextend and overgive, we are children, shaped by the unspoken rules of our environment. Children are not logic-driven, they are soul-driven. They absorb atmosphere, tone, silence. They read between the lines of what is said and what is never allowed to be said. Maybe you grew up in a home where emotions were too loud, too unpredictable. Or maybe they were absent altogether. Perhaps love was offered, but only when you behaved a certain way. Not when you were messy, not when you were angry, not when you had needs. And so, like so many others, you made an unconscious vow: if I stay small, quiet, helpful, maybe I'll be safe. This is where the abandonment begins. Not by accident, but by adaptation. Not because you were weak, but because you were wise enough to survive. But survival is not the same as living, and what once kept you safe now keeps you empty. In Jungian psychology, this is where the shadow is born. The part of you that you had to hide to belong. Your anger, your longing, your voice, you didn't mean to exile those parts, but they were not welcome, so you pushed them down. And in doing so, you began to abandon yourself, piece by piece. As adults, we repeat this pattern without even realizing it. We overfunction in relationships. We say yes when we want to scream no. We numb ourselves with distraction, perfectionism, or caretaking, because somewhere deep inside, the child within us still believes, if I take up too much space, I will lose love. But what if that belief is no longer true? What if the only person you're waiting on is you? When you begin to uncover these unconscious roots, not with blame, but with tenderness, you begin to reclaim your story. You begin to walk back to the child who once felt invisible and whisper, I see you now, and I will never leave you again. Healing starts here. Not with dramatic changes, but with quiet, consistent acts of remembrance, of self-return. There's a certain kind of smile that hides 1,000 silences. It's not fake, it's practiced. It's the smile of someone who's learned that being okay, at least on the outside, is the safest way to survive. You know the one. It shows up at dinner tables, in meetings, in text messages with too many emojis. It says, I'm fine, even when your heart is in pieces. This is the persona, a concept Jung described as the mask we wear to meet the expectations of the world. It helps us fit in. It keeps us socially acceptable. But over time, if we never take it off, we forget who we are beneath it. And here's the tragedy. When your persona becomes too perfect, too kind, too composed, too giving, people stop seeing your humanity. They stop asking how you are. They assume you're always okay because you look like you are, but inside, you might be bleeding. Bleeding from 1,000 small betrayals. Bleeding from the times you swallowed your truth to keep the peace. Bleeding from years of being there for everyone but yourself. Sometimes the strongest people, the ones who hold the most, are the ones who feel the most alone. You can host laughter while your soul aches. You can make others feel seen while your own heart feels invisible. This isn't hypocrisy, it's survival. But it comes at a cost, a slow erosion of the real self, a forgetting of your own needs, a quiet suffocation of your voice, and eventually, even your own reflection becomes unfamiliar. You start to wonder, is this who I really am, or just who I thought I had to be? There's nothing wrong with having a persona. We all have one. It's necessary in society, but when it becomes a prison instead of a choice, when it silences your pain and masks your truth, then it's time to ask, what am I hiding and why do I believe I have to? The truth is, the real you, the one beneath the smile, is not too much. She's not a burden. He's not broken. They're simply unseen. And healing begins the moment you dare to let that truth breathe, even if it trembles, even if it feels like a risk. Because authenticity is never about being perfect. It's about being whole. What happens to all the parts of you that you push aside? The truth is, what we deny doesn't disappear. It waits, in silence, in the corners of our lives, in the pauses between our forced smiles. This is the shadow. Not evil, not wrong, just the disowned. The rejected parts of your soul that you had to hide in order to be loved. Maybe it's your anger, the part of you that screams in the privacy of your mind, I'm tired of being everything for everyone. Maybe it's your longing, the need to rest, to be held, to be chosen, not for what you do, but for who you are. Or maybe it's your boundaries, the no that lives inside your chest but never reaches your lips. All of it, shadow. When you constantly deny your own truth to maintain peace, you plant seeds of quiet resentment. And these seeds don't die. They grow, in your fatigue, in your irritability, in that deep sense that something is off, but you can't quite name it. The world praises you for your generosity, your strength, your patience, but inside your soul whispers, I'm not okay. The more you abandon your inner truth, the more you split from yourself. And the more you split, the heavier life becomes. Because carrying your shadow takes energy. It takes effort to pretend, to hold back the tears, to laugh when you're actually hurting. You may even begin to project this disowned pain onto others, resenting their needs, blaming them for your exhaustion. Not because they're too much, but because you've been too little, son, with yourself. This isn't failure. This is the cost of being taught that love must be earned through sacrifice. But here's the shift. Your shadow is not your enemy. It's the gateway back to yourself. To meet your shadow is not to become selfish. It's to become whole. It's to finally say, I have needs too. I have limits. I am worthy of the same care I give to others. And that, right there, is where healing begins. Not in the light you chase, but in the darkness you finally embrace. Imagine for a moment that your soul is a garden. In its center, a quiet space, sacred, still, filled with the wild beauty of your truest self. This garden was once tended with love, a place where dreams bloomed like wildflowers and joy danced like sunlight between the leaves. But life happened. Demands, expectations, the weight of always being needed. And slowly, without even realizing it, you began walking away. Not all at once, just a little bit. Every time you said yes when you meant no. Every time you ignored your exhaustion to be what someone else needed. Every time you called it love when it was really fear of being left behind. And now so the garden feels distant, overgrown, forgotten. You stand at the edge of it and wonder, when did I stop watering myself? This is the quiet ache of self-abandonment. You give so much to others. You prune their paths, you nourish their dreams, you pull weeds from their chaos, but your own roots are thirsty, your soil is dry, and still you wonder why you feel so tired, so numb, so unseen. Here's the truth. A soul cannot thrive on crumbs. And love that constantly demands your self-erasure is not love, it's dependency. Jung spoke of individuation, becoming whole, becoming real. And that journey always begins within. It begins when you return to your inner garden and notice the parts you've neglected, the parts you once loved, the parts that still wait for you. You don't have to fix everything all at once. Just start small. One quiet morning with no obligations. One boundary softly spoken, one meal eaten slowly without rushing. These are not selfish acts, they are water for the soul, sunlight for what's been left in shadow. Your garden does not judge you for leaving, it only longs for your return. And when you begin to tend to it again, when you pull away the overgrowth of guilt and old patterns, you'll find that your essence was never gone. Only waiting, patient, resilient, because the soul remembers. And healing is not becoming someone new. It's coming home to who you've always been. There is a moment, quiet but unmistakable, when something deep inside you stirs. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or applause. It comes in silence. Often after a night of tears, or a morning when you can't bear to pretend one more day. It's the moment you whisper, "I can't keep living like this." That whisper is sacred. It's not weakness. It's the beginning of self-rescue. To choose yourself after a lifetime of putting others first is not an act of rebellion. It's an act of remembrance, of reclaiming what was always yours. Your voice, your boundaries, your right to be seen not as a function, but as a being. It starts small. You say no, and the world doesn't end. You take a day to rest, and you survive the guilt. You express what you really feel, and for the first time, your reflection looks back with recognition. This turning point is the soul's quiet uprising. It's when you stop waiting to be chosen, and you choose yourself. When you stop performing for love, and begin cultivating love from within. In Jungian terms, this is the path back to the self, the core of who you are beyond persona, beyond shadow, beyond survival. It's not about ego, it's not about putting others beneath you. It's about finally stepping out of the roles you were never meant to play. The martyr, the pleaser, the one who holds it all together, and into the truth of your being. Choosing yourself is not abandoning others, it's refusing to abandon yourself for others. And when you do this, something shifts. You begin to attract peace instead of chaos, respect instead of expectation, connection that feels mutual, not one-sided. You no longer confuse being needed with being loved. This is the moment the healing begins to move from internal to external. The world starts responding to your self-worth, not because people have changed, but because you have. And suddenly, life feels less like a performance and more like presence. The turning point is not a destination, it's a threshold, a beginning, a quiet revolution of the soul that says, "I matter, I am allowed, I am enough." There is a sacred moment, subtle, tender, unmistakable, when you realize you are no longer chasing love, but living from it. Not because someone finally gave it to you, but because you gave it to yourself. Coming home to yourself is not dramatic. It's not a grand event with lights and music. It's quiet, almost unnoticeable at first. It's in the way you pause before saying yes. It's in how you breathe through the urge to over-explain. It's in the sacred power of your first true no, not to hurt, but to honor. And then slowly, the world begins to shift. Not because it changed, but because you are now rooted in truth. Where there was anxiety, there is now stillness. Where there was resentment, there is now clarity. Where there was self-abandonment, there is now reunion. You begin to feel your own rhythm. You eat when you're hungry, not just when there's time. You rest because your body asks, not because you've earned it. You cry when the tears come, and laugh without checking to see if it's too much. This is not self-centeredness, this is sacred recentering. Jung taught us that the soul longs for wholeness, not perfection. And this wholeness begins when you return, not to who the world told you to be, but to who you always were before the world forgot you. Coming home to yourself means remembering. You are not here to be everything for everyone. You are not here to be liked by all. You are here to be you, fully, truthfully, boldly, softly. And when you live from that place, healing becomes inevitable. Not just in your body, but in your relationships, your choices, your entire experience of life. Because the moment you stop leaving yourself behind, everything begins to return. Peace, joy, alignment. You become the sanctuary you were searching for. And in that sacred stillness, you realize you were never too much. You were never not enough. You were simply waiting to come home. Take a breath. Now ask yourself, when was the last time I truly listened to my own heart? What have I been giving to others that I desperately need to give myself? What would change in my life if I finally chose me? These are not just questions. They are invitations to pause, to reflect, to begin again, not as someone new, but as someone finally true. If this video spoke to something inside you, if it helped you see yourself with more kindness, more truth, more courage, consider supporting this channel with a super thanks. Every contribution helps us continue creating soulful content like this for those who need it most. And if you're not yet part of this growing circle of healing and self-discovery, subscribe now so you don't miss the next chapter of your inner journey. Another video is appearing on the screen. It's not just a recommendation. It may be the next step your soul is ready to take. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing yourself.